Hi friends, and welcome to Book a Day for Little Learners. Today we're going to read How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot, but the Grinch, who lived north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now please don't ask why, no one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm, lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in the Whoville beneath was busy now hanging a mistletoe wreath. And there hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer, "Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here." And then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming, "I must find some way to stop Christmas for coming." For tomorrow, he knew, all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early. They'd rush for their toys, and then, the noise. The noise. That's one thing he hated, the noise. Then the Who's, young and old, would sit down to a feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast. They would feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beast, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. Look at their fine party. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the Whos would start singing. They'd sing and they'd sing, and sing and sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I would not want to be like the Grinch, my friends. I know just what to do, the Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat, and he chuckled and clucked, "What a great Grinchy trick. With this coat and this hat, I look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer." The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there were none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No. The Grinch simply said, "If I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead." So he called his dog Max, and then he took some red thread, and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. No way to treat your dog. Then he loaded some bags and some empty old sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, "Get up!" and the sleigh started down toward the homes where the Whos lay a snooze in their town. All their windows were dark, quiet snow filled the air. All the Whos were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first little house on the square, "This is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed, and he climbed on the roof, empty bags in his fist. It says this is the house of J.P. Who. The house is a very cool shape, I think. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once for a moment or two, and then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. "These stockings," he grinned, "are the first things to go." What do you think he's going to do? I think he's going to do something very Grinchy. Then he slithered and slunked with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn and plums, and he stuffed them in bags, and then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags one by one up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox, that's also a refrigerator. He took the Who's feast, and he took the Who pudding, he took the roast beast, he cleaned out their icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took their last can of Who hash. All their food. He took all their food. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee, and now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. He even took the tree. Crazy. And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast and he saw a small Who. Little Cindy Lou Who was not more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter, who got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and she said, Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why? But you know, that old Grinch was so smart and so slick. He thought up a lie and he thought it up quick. Why, my sweet little tot, the fake Santa Claus lied. There's a light on this tree that won't light up on one side, so I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there and then I'll bring it back here. And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head and he got her a drink and he sent her to bed. And then Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup. He went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, that old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. All their decorations are gone. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. That's nothing at all. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. It was 1:15 and all the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a snooze, when he packed up his sled, packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags and the tinsel, the trimmings, the trappings. Do you think his dog Max can pull all of that? Awfully big load to pull. 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. Pooh-pooh to the Who's, he was grinchishly humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. And then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry boo-hoo. The Grinch is pretty awful. That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, and then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook when he saw a shocking surprise. Ooh, show your surprise face. Every Who down in Whoville, was the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came somehow or other. It came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons, it came without tags, it came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Merry Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. I read that as Merry Christmas the first time. It says maybe Christmas. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. He whizzed with his load through the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast. Oh, what do you think, friends? That was pretty terrific. This story was about the Grinch, who wasn't very kind at the beginning of the story, and really appreciated at the end that the Who's from Whoville wanted to celebrate Christmas, not just presents and decorations. I hope you enjoyed this story by Dr. Seuss, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and I will see you tomorrow.